I should get a cut of the profits.
We have churches protesting a church tonight, it would seem. Many of you know of One BC leader Dallas Brodie. She is the Vancouver Quintilla MLA. She is a very bold MLA, and you probably know her by now, but I would say she's most known for really tackling what I call the reconciliation industry, starting with making it very clear to the public, hey, there are no bodies discovered at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. So what's going on with the money, the millions that we paid for it? And enough of all of this sort of guilt payments and things like that that are impacting our economy. And so here's the thing. There is a church. It's called Riverside Calvary Chapel in Langley. They are just simply allowing the event to take place there. It's an Action for Canada event called Truth Matters. And they are having Miss Brodie and another Danielle Pistilli, who was a very common activist during the freedom movement, speak. So it's a private event in a church that's taking place there. I don't even believe it's like a church event. And there are calls to protest simply because an elected MLA is coming to be a speaker there. And I want to go to that article because, of course, this comes out and then the protests follow. So the article refers to it, controversial MLA expected to speak in Langley. Why is it controversial for an MLA and a party leader to speak anywhere at a private event? There's nothing controversial here. And if you scroll down, so this was in the Surrey Now Leader. This is Black Press Media. In case you don't know, what they do is they do an article and they throw it out on all the local medias, but it's the exact same article. So you think you're getting local, but really you're not. You're getting a narrative. And if you look in there, they are reinforcing to reinforce that title that she's controversial. They're misleading the public. So scroll down a little bit more. This is saying now they've actually updated this one to say protests are coming. Yeah, well, of course, when you do an article like this, they are. So they say Brodie is a former BC Conservative MLA who was ejected by John Rustad. And so I've covered this extensively. It is not true what they say here, that she was mocking voice of Indigenous residential school survivors. No, she was mocking this whole, there's no value in objective truth. She was just saying, you can't just say, my grandma said this and this. She wasn't mocking the people. She was mocking that. And here it says, she has also denied that there were any children buried at the former Kamloops Indian Residential School. No further context given. Right. So if you're not following the truth, if you're not following independent media that has been trying to, scream this from the mountains, 0 bodies have been found there, and also at any other band that made clandestine unmarked grave claims across the country. They're not even saying, and by the way, there have been no bodies found. They're just making her look crazy. So of course protests are going to happen. But hey, this is a church. How far are we going? And look at some of the people joining in. Is this Anglican church that is literally calling for people to join in protest tonight? They're calling people to show up as early as 5:30. I saw an Action for Canada post by Tanya Gaw, who I believe is the founder. And she said, the event itself might be sold out. But we have seen when Dallas Brodie, went to UBC recently, hundreds of people coming in with this misled representation of her to protest her. So I don't know what to expect at this church tonight. What do you make of all that?
I know. I should get a cut of the profits.
One of the most dangerous ideologies right now in the world. And so I kept writing, and my list got to 500, and by 2019, we needed an organization's people were saying more people need to hear what you're doing and to motivate people to write to their conservative members, because they were saying we don't hear from people. And I said,
Well, I have seen, her being at these universities along with Dr. Francis Widdowson, and it's deeply unsettling that they can't even go. I mean, this is where we're at. And I'm going to say this again. I've said it a million times. When did we get to a place in this country where we couldn't find common ground? Something, we can have our differences. We don't all have to believe the same things. I mean, nothing that Dallas Brodie has ever said has been untrue. There have been no graves of children exhumed. And as a matter of fact, I think there was just an article that came out yesterday because they're about to release some documents. So as you said, I mean, where millions of dollars were sent here to this location to uncover the truth. And there has not been, they haven't even purchased a shovel. There's been no plans for excavation, nothing. So, I mean, she's just asking the right questions and tough questions. Tough because we are run by feelings now and not the rule of law. But for that, she's called far right. I mean, to me, if you're spending billions of dollars on a project like this and nothing's happening, as we've seen in this country for the last decade, I mean, you're rightfully so to ask questions. And especially to be after our country has been accused of being a genocidal nation.
Yes.
I mean, I am Métis. There's a lot of First Nations people that benefited from residential schools, but you're not allowed to talk about that. And if you do, I believe there's a lady in BC that wants to criminalize residential school denialism.
Leah Gazan. And you're right, we are about to get some information from the Kamloops Ben almost 5 years later about what the heck really happened. And we're only getting that by force because the feds tried to cover it up. They sealed the report and said it's like too sensitive. And then thankfully, our information commissioner said, no, release that document. That's the only reason we're actually getting answers coming up. And then we see the band scrambling with some article that came out recently.
Too sensitive for who? Who is it too sensitive for? I mean, we are adults. This is another thing that I am sick and tired of in this country. And it has been going on for at least a decade. It's being talked down to and treated by our politicians who are actually employed by us to serve us, by the way. Like we are a bunch of children who need to be disciplined and put on the right path. And this is just a prime example of it. We are all adults. And here's the thing, at the convoy, this is one thing that we proved. We became basically a self-governing entity in that area. The streets were never cleaner. They were shoveled, they were salted. There was no cigarette butts on the ground. We had people in place to make sure that the protesters, the supporters, and the truckers were all safe. I mean, so we're not children. We can manage ourselves.
Yeah.
It's frustrating.
And I think we're stupid too, because
yes.
And maybe we're just too busy. I think a lot of society is too busy with their lives that they just trust the headlines and maybe the first couple of paragraphs and move on with their lives. But one of the first things I pointed out in my documentary a year after the false claim, it's at kamloopsdocumentary.com and it's free for everybody to see, was this whole is culturally sensitive. And that's why we're not disturbing the ground is bull. Because in the culture of Aboriginal people, it is very important to repatriate. And when you look at the Kamloops Residential School, the kids would have come from as far as the Yukon to attend that school. So if you really did find remains, the first thing you would do to be culturally sensitive would be to involve the coroner, find out where these remains are, who are these people, what tribe did they belong to, and return them to their people. That was the biggest red flag for me right on was don't ask any questions, or we might not disrupt, it's too sensitive. So don't fall for this crap anymore. But let's not forget that this false claim that was made us look like a genocidal nation, made our MPs concede that the residential school system was genocidal without evidence of such. This led to a mass burning and vandalism spree against well over 100 churches in Canada. That's got to be the largest hate crime against religion we've seen in Canada for a very long time. And now MLA Brodie, who can't, she gets a lot of her events canceled. She can't even speak at a private church. Now the church, which has already been under attack because of these falsehoods, is being attacked by people who are just holding on to this false narrative, like they really want dead kids to be under the ground when the evidence shows that, probably not. That's probably not what's there. It's sick.
Yeah. Well, and it's done so much damage to our reputation. I when I was going through court, one of my bodyguards was from India, and we were talking about this. How our former prime minister called us basically a genocidal nation, and I mean, this has damaged our reputation worldwide. In his country of India, Canada is actually known as a country of baby killers.
Oh
I
my
mean,
gosh.
it's horrific. This is absolutely horrific.
Well,
Um,
it's
yeah.
sick. Yep.
Are
So
you going to cover that tonight then?
I will be covering that tonight because I just think it's so outrageous, and I'm of course working on getting security, which is another thing.
Right. Of
Why
course.
do I need security to cover an event at a church? That's the
Right.
state of Canada. So again, I know you need a
Correct.
ton of security when you go out. We
Yeah.
have a journalistdefensefund.com. If you guys knew the expenses we pay to keep us safe, thankfully, I appreciate that very much. I even have security at my home that Rebel pays for to keep me safe. But it's actually you guys, it's the people who's doing all that, keeping Tamara safe, keeping myself safe. I mean, we can't even go to a university or church sometimes to bring you a report safely. So journalistdefensefund.com if you guys want to chip in.